Boom. What's up, Nerferders?
Sup?
No blaring intro. We're not sure how that goes for during the live
Still not sure.
performance, but like when I listen to it back in the in post, it's chaos. So we'll spare you from that time. Happy New Year, Nerferders! Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the N.A.P, the first episode of 2021. Josh, how we doing? How was the holidays?
Good. We had that crazy snowstorm that I stupidly forgot I have like a go bag at work so that I can work from home. And the night before I forgot it at my desk. So I had to go in last Tuesday to work, and I work in the country. So
As you say, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
it was a nightmare to get there and get home. And, but after that, I mean, like 6 p.m. that night, I was snow blowing in like a shirt and pants and like a light jacket. Like it wasn't even cold. It wasn't that cold. The storm wasn't that bad. So I thought that was going to ruin my weekend, but it didn't. And then the rest of the weekend was just chill. How about you?
Well, it was super nice that I ended up not having to do too terrible much when that snowstorm dropped down. Because I only had to go to like my nearest server room. Which I mean, it's not a great commute, but it's not the worst one that it could have been anyway. I just remember being there for most of the day, and every now and then, like I'll peek my head out the door just to kind of see how the weather was going, and just the snow just would not stop. Was the weird part, and we don't get snows like that anymore. What, like once a year out here, maybe?
Yeah, rarely. We used to get them all the time.
Yeah,
But,
it's
hardly anymore.
not crazy. But I mean, overall, the holiday was good. I had some time off. I got to I've got a New Year's resolution, which is very unusual for me, but it's specifically towards this channel. So I think it makes a little bit more sense.
Okay.
But yeah, there was we'll talk about that at the as we wrap things up. But to kick things off, obviously, I mean, every channel does this. I think every channel has their top lists of 2020. But we haven't had this yet. Like this is you and I's first New Year's doing this thing together. And so this is our first time. So we can do it without it being a cliche.
True. That's true. And especially, I mean, how many times do we have a coming off of a COVID year to do this? So
yeah, that's adding an interesting element here because we had a limited pool of content compared to usual. It's still pretty huge. Yeah. Still,
when
enormous.
I was thinking back, I was like, wait, they did release a lot of movies this year, even if it wasn't the big ones that everybody was expecting. They released a lot, and I did watch a lot. But yeah. This was fun. So yeah, I thought we've put together some of our tops. I don't think we did like a worst of, but we did.
So
we talked about some of our things.
I didn't want to do a worst of. That just makes me feel weird. It's like, I mean, I'll shit on stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like I'll shit on bad content. I mean I crapped on an episode of The Mandalorian super hard. We both did. And The Mandalorian's a great series. But like the idea of putting something on there specifically just because it was shit makes me kind of feel bad towards that specific artist, because I know that there's going to be a point. There's been points where I'm going to be in that person's shoes waiting to hear what people think of my work. Sure. And to think of like scrolling through and finding my thing on a list of worst, just like I can take criticism, don't get me wrong, but putting me on a list specifically just to call me out for being bad after the fact, especially because, I mean, most of the projects that would end up on those lists, how many of actually like recent? It's like, oh, this came out right around Christmas. Well, sure. Talk about it until I can put it in my worst list because that's where it belongs. Like that just feels gross to me as a creator towards other creators. Putting worse on there.
I think we put together plenty of positives to talk about, so it's not like we have an empty, like a half empty episode. But I think we have plenty to talk about.
And I'll shit on each one of those, like just a little bit for any of the faults that they absolutely have. But for the most part, it's it's a compliment sandwich. We're talking really good stuff. I'll pepper in a little bit of dog shit right there in the middle, and then the other side, which isn't a great analogy, but that's how we'll go. Let's start with your list first, though, because yours caught off guard because none of the selections that are on there. I mean, I knew that you enjoyed a lot of this stuff and you'd talked about it before, but I did not expect that it would like outlast everything else that came out that we that you watched this year.
Okay, so we want to do the top, our top 10 movies of the year, or
Yeah,
properties of the year. Okay,
that seems like the better category.
I think we were talking that I think we haven't, both of us haven't seen as many movies as normal this year, just because there haven't been as many movies as normal this year, at least not blockbusters or big mainstream media. But
Way
I
less
have
in my
been,
case. Way less.
I have been, and sometimes I'll mention it. I write reviews for another podcast called Victims and Villains, and they have a website. They just do movie reviews. And so, I lack of thing in the theaters has turned me more to be like, hey, give me more things to review. And then, of course, we had streaming things. So I was able to fill this list pretty quickly. It didn't take me too long to be like, what were my top? So these, how do I show? Where's the button at? There it is. It's been so long since we've been doing this. These are my top 10. We'll do.
You're gonna have to give me titles on some of these because some of them I recognize like right off the bat, but
I'll go through them and then I'll minimize it again so that you can see our faces. But
there we go.
From the and these are in no particular order. This isn't 10. This isn't 1 or anything like that. But from top left, you have The Trial of the Chicago 7, which was a Netflix movie. You have Possessor Uncut, Synchronic in the middle, Underwater, and The Invisible Man. And then on the bottom, you have The Way Back, the Russian film Sputnik, the Korean film Alive, Extraction, and Palm Springs. So I will say this with the caveat that there are other films that I've really wanted to see, like Minari, and what was the other one The Sound of Metal. I've heard amazing things about those films. I have not yet got the chance to see them. So if there's a movie on this list, it could be, or there's a movie that's not on this list, it could be that I didn't think it was better than these 10s, or it could be that I haven't seen it. So,
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, and at the same time, I mean, we're talking about a subjective art here, so we're not saying that these movies are better than movies that you guys might like.
Sure.
That's just what stood out.
But I will be the first to admit that never in my lifetime did I think a Nolan movie would not make my top 10.
That was one of the movies that I thought might be on there, but after, I had to kind of like think back to the way that you reacted to it when you told me about it. Because we didn't talk too much about it here on the podcast, but yeah, Tenet was actually kind of a letdown for you.
Tenet, I think Tenet was a bigger film than all of these films. However, I feel like each of these films in their individual right were well put together, were well polished, and they succeeded in what they were wanting to do. So The Trial of the Chicago 7, Aaron Sorkin film. I love courtroom dramas. One of my favorite films of all time is A Few Good Men. So to have the writer of that come back and do a real life trial from American history, I was all over that. And it's got an incredible cast. I mean, I ate that film up and I immediately, sat down and rewatched it with, my wife, and she liked it. And Possessor Uncut. Do you just want me to go through these, or do you have any of them that you want to ask me about, or what would you like to do?
I mean, just kind of give me the bullet points on them, I guess. Obviously we don't want to talk spoilers because some people probably haven't seen these, and I would hope that they'd be influenced by our choices to actually go and check them out. I haven't seen any of the things on this list except for Extraction.
Okay. All right. Well, then great.
So I'm, and then again, you've got a few horror picks in here, and everybody who's watched this regularly knows that I'm not a horror guy. That's not the genre that I generally dip into.
Right.
So especially
Well,
knowing me, if you would recommend that I watch this, even knowing that that's not my genre, that'd be a big point too.
so yeah, things like Possessor Uncut, for example, it's in my mind it's more sci-fi than it is horror, but it's technically classified as a sci-fi horror. It's from Brandon Cronenberg, and just like his father, he knows how to put some unnerving, disturbing imagery on the screen, and he does so with Possessor. It's a sci-fi film about an assassin network that basically possesses a body in order to have a scapegoat after the assassination is done. It was a really high concept. It was, but it was a bottle film at the same time, and I was enthralled by it. By the time it was over, I had goosebumps. It was a really, really good movie, in my opinion.
I had to
So-
look up David Cronenberg here,
Mhm.
and I see that he was responsible for A History of Violence, which was the first movie that I had watched specifically because an actor from Lord of the Rings was in it.
Right, right. And
Go
this is
Viggo
his son.
Mortensen.
This is his son, and the apple does not fall far from the tree. His son
That's
is
good.
very much like him. But at the same time, I didn't feel like it was the son emulating the father. I felt like it was a very good production, and he put a lot of work into it. So like I said,
Yeah,
I
there's
had
a
chills after watching that.
his own identity
Yeah, I
as a
agree.
creator. That's
So,
great.
if you haven't seen Possessor Uncut, I believe it's out on streaming now. Uncut is just I don't even know if the regular version is out anymore, if it's just the uncut version, but they still put uncut there, and that's the version I watched. It was a lot, but it was great. Synchronic was a movie that came out in October, and it's about to hit digital and physical this month. It stars not Hawkeye. It stars Anthony
Jeremy
Mackie.
Renner.
No, who does he
Oh,
play? Anthony
not
Mackie.
Hawkeye. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
Hawkeye, but the wings.
Falcon.
What's his, Falcon stars Anthony Mackie, Falcon from the MCU, and Jamie Dornan from The Fall and 50 Shades of Grey, and they are paramedics.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe don't throw 50 Shades of Grey in there
Hey,
when
that's
you're.
what a lot of people know from. Okay?
That's fair, but if you're trying to talk somebody up, maybe not.
Just being honest.
Maybe not that one.
Anyway, the premise for this show is that both of these guys are paramedics, and they start coming across more and more cases of these people taking this synthetic drug. I don't know if there's synthetic drugs that you can get at gas stations. They're like, it's like weed, but it's not weed.
Yeah.
So the newest synthetic drug is called Synchronic, and these people are taking it, and it's fucking them up, and it goes into this. I don't want to spoil it, but it goes into this crazy premise, and it starts taking Anthony Mackie places, and it was really good. I loved it. It's a very tight film, and it just had this urgency and this pacing that I just couldn't get away from. And then on top of that, I got to interview the directors last week, and just talking to them about the process of making it made me love the film even more. It's one thing to be like, the film's okay, and then you talk to the directors and you like it a little bit more after hearing them. I love this film, and then just being able to talk to them about it made it even better. So, very fun sci-fi film.
This one's weird. It says 2019 on it, but then in release date it says October of 2020.
Yeah, I don't know
weird.
if it got pushed or
Get on
something,
your
but
shit,
it
Google.
released in October. Yeah, so
That could be it.
really good. Really liked it. Underwater came out at, I think, like the second week of January of last year, so it was like one of the first movies that came out. I think a lot of people didn't see it because Kristen Stewart's in it, and then a lot of other people were bashing on it for being an Aliens ripoff. It's a movie about an underwater station goes bad, and these people have to cross the ocean floor, and there's monsters down there. And
I'm still listening. I'm gonna mute myself to sneeze here real quick.
Okay. And bless you. I'm just gonna bless you, even though I can't hear your sneezing. So we're all blessing Seth. Bless you, Seth. Get that sneeze out. But
Woo.
yeah, so it's underwater monsters with some Lovecraft references in there, and really, really good production quality. I loved it. I loved the film. It was great, and Kristen Stewart was great in it. T.J. Miller was in it, he was funny. Yeah, there's a lot of alien references, but at this point, any sci-fi movie with monsters has alien references, so I don't consider that a knock.
I mean, when you're also talking about like one of the greatest sci-fi films,
Right.
like yeah, of
Right.
course there's going to be people. I mean, how many Star Wars references do we get in other movies and other like
Exactly.
ticks from that kind of stuff? I like going back on your choices here and actually like looking them up and seeing what kind of like the audience consensus is. And this
Mm-hmm.
one was like the most contentious. So you're putting this on a top list, but this one's like 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, a 47 on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 48 on Metacritic.
Underwater. That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of people that hate this movie, and I was ready to hate. Like, I didn't go see this opening night. I saw this like the matinee of the matinees on a Saturday, and because it was the beginning of the year, COVID wasn't a thing. I was just like, I'll go see it, and I was blown away by how much I really liked it. And the end, I don't want to give it away, but the end was like, oh hell yes, because I'm a huge Lovecraft fan, and and then seeing behind the scenes stuff and I mean, like for example, the suit that she's wearing, the CGI behind that, and then the actual suits that they wear in real life, and just the production value of being on an underwater station, it just looked really clean to me. And I don't care if you see similarities between aliens. I didn't feel like it was an alien ripoff, and I thought it was just really well done. So I loved it. So yeah, it definitely made my top 10.
It's definitely
Um,
one that I won't look into because being trapped somewhere and having it being filled with water is like
oh, I know, right?
one of my biggest
And
fears.
maybe that was part of it because I am fucking afraid of the ocean, man. I do not like being on top of something where I can't see the bottom. It freaks the shit out of me.
Oh man,
If
what's that
it's so
called?
deep that it gets dark, it scares me.
Thalassophobia is the
Is that what that is?
persistent and intense fear of deep bodies of water such as the sea, oceans, pools, or lakes.
Yep, that's me. So maybe that was part of why I really love this film because it had me
It was
going.
that was a subreddit that was like really popular for a long time and then it disappeared. I wonder what happened to that.
Well, there you go. But we need to
Nightmare
keep
fuel
going
for
here
you,
because I
so
know I want to
don't
get to
jump into
yours.
that.
Uh, the Invisible Man. We talked. I think didn't me and you watch a trailer? Didn't we do a trailer reaction to
We
this one?
did do a trailer reaction to this one. I don't remember I don't remember if this one even went up. All I remember is oh no, this one did go up. I remember because I shit on the trailer, and then we got a copyright claim on it.
Oh yeah,
Which
yeah. They're like, oh yeah,
whether those two things are related, you can be the
right.
judge on your
You
own.
got to shit on my trailer. You
But
get
yeah,
slapped.
yeah, I remember getting a copyright claim on that, disputing it, and it just never went away. Um,
Well, this
which I think is just kind of the industry's way of like dealing with it. It's like, oh, somebody like disputes our claim, we're just gonna not respond to the claim, and we'll
yeah,
just
yeah.
like let her rip.
When I
Um,
know you were on the fence about seeing this anyway because it's a horror film, and you're not
yeah,
a
the trailer just didn't sell me. Like I remember specifically, like the trailer just looked. It didn't catch my interest at all. I'm glad that this showed up on your top list though. Like, and
oh
then I
yeah.
was like, I'm happy to be proven wrong because
Well,
the
and
reviews are
granted,
in
like you
for it
said,
and the reviews are good too. So
the creator behind this was the creator of what's that other sci-fi slash horror film that was
that
really
narrows it
big.
down.
It was like the Jarvis in your head thing, and Upgrade. The creator of Upgrade did this, and I think that's why they didn't show a lot in the trailer because it's a very small film. But there's some sci-fi elements in this film that I just really dug, and of course Elizabeth Moss is great. I love her in that fucked up show she's in. But she was great in
Handmaid's
this.
Tale.
She really portrayed somebody that was like, I know that an invisible man is stalking me, and it doesn't matter how many people call me crazy because it's not just that the dude was invisible is that he was smart enough to make it look like she was crazy. And it was just as much psychological as it was technological. And I
Wasn't
really
wasn't there
appreciate it.
some wasn't there some like thing in his will to where she'd get like a crap load of money if she wasn't
If she
declared
was
crazy or
sane.
something like that?
Right. And basically his mission was just like to fuck with her. And instead of making this like a rape bait film, which what was that movie? The Invisible
Hollow
Man movie
Man.
with Hollow Man. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
that
not
was
Keanu Reeves, Kevin
that
Bacon.
one was bad.
It's like as soon as I'm invisible, I'm gonna go sneak in my neighbor's place and check out her naked. Like, okay.
Yeah, that one's
If a frat boy wrote this, this is what they would do.
that
This
one
had a
would
little more
that
intelligence
movie
than
would
that.
not get through today.
I know that.
It
So
shouldn't
this
have
is
got it
levels
shouldn't have
above
gotten
that.
through when it did, but it
Yeah, it was a bad
definitely
film. It
wouldn't
was a
make
really
it
bad
now.
film. Continuing on, The Way Back, uh, um, it's from the director of Warrior, and Warrior is one of my favorite sports films of all time. Um, it took a UFC style, an MMA story, and made it the modern Rocky. And the director of that did The Way Back, and again, it was a sports movie, but it was so much more than sports, and it was about Ben Affleck dealing with his personal shit, and it was just really good, man. And on top of that, Ben Affleck is himself known to have a drinking issue, and um, just to see him portray somebody on camera that very much reflects who he supposedly has been was kind of brave, I thought, but he just did so good, and it felt so genuine to see him struggle, and I just thought it was a really heartbreaking but heartwarming tale at the same time.
I mean, that's a big thing around why method acting is so successful because you put yourself into those shoes. But if you've already been there,
Yeah.
especially with something difficult, yeah, that'd be rough.
Of course, now he's I don't know. Granted, I don't watch. I'm like somebody that follows TMZ or anything like that. But Ben Affleck has been dating what's her name from Blade Runner 29 and that knife movie. Um,
Knives Out.
anyway, Knives Out. Yeah, he's been dating that girl, and he looks a lot happier. So maybe he just need to find a better partner. But anyway, Sputnik is my next one. That's a Russian film about the Russian astronauts that went up in the Sputnik thing, but with the sci-fi twist of them bringing something back, and it's completely in Russian. It follows this woman. It's been a long time since I've seen this, but she's like a scientist or she's either a scientist or she's like a social worker or something, but they bring her in to basically talk to this astronaut. And this isn't spoilers. This is in the trailer, but basically only one of the two astronauts survived. And she comes in to talk to him. And then she finds out as they tell her that inside of him is an alien being, and that at night the alien being exits the body and then goes back in, and they don't know a way to separate the two. And it is fucked up, but it's really good. Um, and it's a fairly low budget film, but it's shot really well. The sets are really nice, and the shots of just like Russian countryland is really gorgeous, and the score is amazing. So it's a great film. I know it's kind of hard to see foreign films sometimes, but that one, if you can, is really good.
Yeah, you really got to sit down and watch those because you're also reading.
You are
Uh,
reading,
that's
yes,
gonna
and if
be
you're not,
that's the hurdle.
it is, and but I have shown this film to a couple of other people. Some of them are fine with subtitles, some of them aren't, and all of them came back was like, "Wow, that was a really good film." So I wonder if it's going to get any Oscar talk because it was big, and it got out of its country. When a film gets out of its country and starts getting talked about by other people in other countries, I think that's a good hurdle. And that's not, most of American movies make it out, but to see and this could just be actually this makes me sound like an asshole now, but it got out of Russia, and a lot of people were talking about this on a lot of different scales. So I really hope that this gets some accolades or gets some nominations, because I believe it earned it. The next one is a foreign film as well. It's called Alive, and man, it was a zombie movie that felt like it was written for COVID times, because it was like a mix of the two. And it came out earlier this year, and watching this and seeing this young guy who was like a Twitch gamer, basically lived out of his room, and he wasn't very well connected with his family, even though he still lived with his family. And then all of a sudden, something happens, zombie apocalypse, and he's stuck in his apartment without anybody, without technology. He can't go on his phone. He can't go on Twitch. He's he can't even get good reception unless he's doing what he's doing in the picture, which is hanging off his balcony with a selfie stick trying to get good reception. It was a really good take on a zombie film and what an individual would do, and kind of their individual problems. A very small story in a bigger scope, which is the whole place was under a zombie apocalypse. So I really liked it. It was a very fun film.
I'm watching the trailer as you discuss it, and it's actually like watching behind the scenes commentary. Yeah, it looks pretty messed up.
Yeah. And I think it's on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Yeah, you've had quite a few Netflix titles on here, actually.
Well, yeah. And the next one is a Netflix title as well. It's Extraction.
It gives me some hints for what your other categories might be talking about.
This is from the brothers that did Endgame and whatchamacallit, Infinity War and Captain America Winter Soldier. Those the duo directors.
The Russo brothers.
The Russo brothers, that's right. This is a film that they did for Netflix that's based on a graphic novel. And the graphic novel, I think they also had a hand in writing as well. Graphic novel is called Ciudad, and it's by Ande Parks and the Russo brothers. So that's kind of cool. They co-wrote a graphic novel and then brought it to the big screen, and of course it's starring Thor himself being a badass.
Okay, let's throw our screenplay up as a graphic novel first and dip our toe in the water, see how this is gonna go.
Yeah. Did you say you saw this one? Is this the only one on my list that you saw?
Yes, this is the only one that I saw. I thought it was good. I was very pleased. I mean, obviously there were some shortfalls. Like I'm obviously we're not going to talk spoilers still. It wouldn't have ended up on it wouldn't have dethroned any of my top 10 list. I'll put it that way. But it was still a really enjoyable watch. I think Chris Hemsworth doesn't get as much credit for how good of an actor he actually is outside of like when it comes to like Marvel fans who are used to seeing him as Thor. Like I was close to kind of being in that same ilk, because like, well, like he's played Thor, and then the only other thing that he's been in was he was the best part of the Ghostbusters reboot, and then they just say fuck it to the wind. But honestly, and then like the Men in Black movie that he did, that movie was kind of as well. But he performs well in like all of them. Like I think he does a really good job, and he's a great actor. And then this movie, like he got to work with directors he's very familiar with, and it shows. Like he's having a good time. He's getting the hell beat out of him, but he's having a good time. And there was they did make me care about the kid. They did an okay job of me caring about the kid he's I guess it's not really a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but yeah, and you already talked about it, but yeah, he's trying to get this kid, and without talking spoilers is tough, but
I know.
Yeah,
you're not alone in talking about
So
he's great as
I would have given
Thor.
it like a 7 out of 10 or so, which is just a
Yeah,
little bit higher than where like most reviews are setting it.
yeah. Well, he all of his films. He's done a lot of films outside the MCU, and they all
Yeah,
struggled. I don't know
huge amount.
why. He's done like he did like Black Hat or not Black Hat. He did something Hat. He's done a lot of films. It just did not do well. I don't know why. I think he's a great actor, maybe, but I think there's a theory that he just can't carry his own films outside of Marvel, and I don't know why. I think he's a
I
great actor.
See, I don't know. I find him to be watchable enough to where that isn't a problem. I feel like it's been outside elements that are there. I
Yeah,
definitely like him more in comedic roles than I do in this super serious
he
form
is
that he was in.
he is good.
Because
He is better in comedic roles. Oh, Black Hat. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was an interesting movie, but he's just and Rush. That was a great movie. He's done a lot of films outside the MCU. Oh, Cabin in the Woods. I think Cabin in
yeah,
the Woods is probably his most revered film outside of the MCU, but he's done like a
he,
Dick film. He's
yeah,
done a
but then
lot.
he had Red Dawn after, and that one
Oh god, that
sucked.
was so shit. That was so
That
shit.
one,
I'm a huge Red Dawn fan.
and the
Uh,
way that they killed him off was kind of like. I'll talk
right?
spoilers for Red Dawn because it sucked, but the way that they killed him was so dumb. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be this meaningful character to the main character, who's played by, I think it was Josh Peck, the guy
Yep.
from Drake and Josh. Um, yeah, he's just walking down a fucking hallway, and like no emotion, no whatsoever. He just gets blasted while he's walking down this hallway. As soon as he like, because he didn't check his corners. Apparently, they're
Yeah.
playing by
Yeah.
Call of Duty rules for that movie.
Right.
Just blew him away. It was so bad. Oh man, if you want like a hilarious, like funny, bad movie,
Oh,
Red Dawn is in
if you're a
there.
fan of the original Red Dawn, the new Red Dawn will just piss you off with
Oh
how
yeah,
bad
that'll make you a little mad,
it is.
but
It is
yeah,
an empty film. All right, so I liked Extraction. I thought the action was amazing. It reminded me of the Raid. It's not on par with the Raid, but it's one of the closer, like non-stop action movies, American action movies that is comparable to the Raid, in my opinion. I thought it was really fun. And then Palm Springs. Why am I listing Palm Springs over a movie like Tenet or even Wonder Woman 84? Because it did what it was supposed to do. It looked like a fun comedy with a sci-fi twist. And what did I get? A fun comedy with a sci-fi twist. It was an Andy Samberg movie that had depth, which was weird.
this
I
was
mean,
weird.
it had a real, like, this isn't like he's done some parody movies, right? Like he did a Lonely Island movie. He's done some stupid shit. And I love him for his stupid shit. But this is not like his version of a Will Ferrell movie. This had depth to it. And there were scenes in this that I was like, holy shit. I did not expect this movie to go there. And it did. And I was like, that's kind of fucked up. But at the same time, it's kind of really awesome that he threw me for a loop, man. I mean, I really thought this was just going to be like his version of like a Hot Tub Time Machine. It's not a time machine movie, but it's like a loop movie. It's
Well,
like
I was gonna
Groundhog
say,
Day.
reading the description, I was about to ask you if there was like if there was like some sort of time thing going on.
It's a
Because you
Groundhog
said
Day movie.
okay, because you did
So
say sci-fi comedy.
yeah, and we've seen plenty of Groundhog Day movies. We've seen what was the recent duo, the Die, How to Die Another Day, or something like that. Um, we've seen a lot of Groundhog Day style movies, and some of them are good. Oh, Happy Death Day.
Edge of Tomorrow, I think, was like the coolest like sci-fi Groundhog
Hmm.
Day
Yeah, and that was neat. So you can do
merging.
it different ways. And this one, the premise sounds really dumb, but it's executed so well. And then the comedy is good. And then the romance story is good. And then, like I said, there are certain parts of this film that was just, I did not see that coming, which is so weird to think that Andy Samberg could do that in a romance groundhog comedy sci-fi movie. But I did not see it coming. And by the time it was done, I was like, that was a damn good movie. And maybe it was also because I needed something uplifting in COVID because it came out in the middle of everything going on. I think it came out like in the middle of the summer. So I really liked it. And if you haven't seen it, it's a good laugh and it's a good sci-fi movie as well, which I did not expect. So those are my top 10.
I've been watching like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so like anything Andy Samberg's doing right now, I'm like willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm a huge Andy Samberg fan. He is a genius and he's really good at comedy, but I still did not expect this from him. So good on him because that was blew me away. Blew me away. Oh, and J.K. Simmons is in it. And anything with J.K. Simmons,
oh Jesus,
I'm down for. Yeah, he's amazing.
Do you have any honorable mentions? Something that was like it was really like neck and neck getting it on here.
So, yes, I did last night. No, 2 nights ago, I watched Hunter x Hunter, which is an indie film that came out in 2020, and I heard a lot of people talking about it. And again, this was on my list. I really want to see Minari, and I really want to see Sound of Metal, but I saw Hunter x Hunter, and it was an indie film about a family living on federal land, and they hunt. It's a modern day film. They hunt, they sell their fur for their supplies. They live off the land. They're very, they're very out there, reclusive type.
The hunter gatherer off the grid type.
Yes. Yes, but they're very smart. And, there's a teenage daughter, and she's very smart. And she's learning to hunt with her dad. Well, she knows how to hunt, but she's learning to hunt better with her dad. And a wolf comes in, and apparently they've had problems with wolves before. And the dad goes out to kill the wolf. And while he's on like an overnight hunt for the wolf, he comes across something that is fucked up and is not nature related. And then the repercussions of that haunt the family. It's not like supernatural. The repercussions of that come back on the family. And the beginning of it was good. The middle of it was like, okay, this is interesting. But the ending was so fucked up. I was like, oh my God. I did not. It was fucked up. Like the definition of fucked up was the end of this movie. And it threw me. And it didn't throw me in a bad place. I was just like, whoa, they went there. And I don't want to spoil it. But I thought the beginning was really good. I thought the middle wasn't dragging, but I was like, okay, I can tell this is an indie film because they're not really showing a lot. And then the end happened, and I'm like, oh, that's why this movie's rated R. And holy shit, did they push that rated R to the limit, and did not see that coming. Really good film that I would suggest you checking out if you can. Hunter x Hunter. It's not based on the anime. It's not at all based on the anime. It's two different things.
So, looks like it's not on any streaming platforms right now for free anyway. You can catch it on Amazon Prime right now. Well,
yeah,
you can catch fucking everything on Amazon Prime if you pay for it.
Right. Right. But it's really good. I was really impressed by it. It shook me. That ending shook me. Oh, and it had Nick Stahl, who I haven't seen since Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. He was John Connor in Terminator 3. And I remember liking him. I was like, he's good. Why haven't I seen him in more things? And he was in this, and he's old as hell now.
He was in Sin
he's not
City.
really old. That's right, he was in Sin City. God, it just feels like forever since I've seen him.
I recognize him from something else. So I'm actually like looking at his thing right now, but none of the things are. Maybe I just recognize him from Terminator 3.
I mean, that's the biggest role I remember him. He was dating Claire Danes before Claire Danes was Claire Danes, and yeah. And he's not really that old, but he looks a lot older. He looked like a kid back then. Now, he looks his age. But
I have an odd like one of the shows that I watch on repeat every now and then, just to have it on the background when I'm like editing or something like that, is Law and Order SVU, and he played some like psycho paranoid killer on that. Oh, and that's where I've seen it. That's where I've seen his face.
There you go. God, I miss that show. You used to get some really good like one-off psycho performances from actors, and that I always appreciated.
Yeah, it's
Law and Order SVU for
it's
that.
a real. I haven't caught it since like I don't know. After Stabler left, I was just like, eh.
Right.
I don't really care anymore.
We could have a whole discussion on that show. Okay, well let's get on to yours. We talked about my top 10 for a while. Do you want me to just click to it, or did you want to set it up in any way?
I don't have a setup for it. Just throw it over there.
Okay.
Like I had I did not catch a lot of content this year. I'll put it that way. But I had some standouts. Obviously, we've got The Mandalorian, excellent series. I have only just recently started The Queen's Gambit, but it hooked me from the beginning, very early on. And even if like the dialogue had sucked, like I would still tell people to watch it for a lesson on cinematography. The Clone Wars, the latest season, is an obvious winner for me as well. And again, these are in no particular order, same as yours. The Old Guard was one of the few films that I saw that I like thoroughly enjoyed. I watched it with my wife. We both really enjoyed it. The Boys was something that I hadn't. I'd watched like around the time that it first came out. I watched the first couple episodes, didn't finish it. Saw that the second season was coming out. You and I decided we need to talk about it, so I caught up on it as fast as humanly possible.
Yep.
The Social Dilemma, which is one that I'm excited to talk about because you didn't like it. Tiger King was fucking hilarious to me. But like I'm actually in the process of great. Like my own kind of like mini documentary that I'm doing right now. So I was catching a lot of documentaries just to kind of like get some inspiration. Then Tiger King came out and it was just fucking hilarious. And then I had some video games on there because I'm a huge gamer. I spend a lot of my time doing that. Now Horizon Zero Dawn, for people who are familiar with that game, know that it did not come out in 2020, but it was released on Steam very recently. So I didn't get the chance to play it. I have a PS4. I never bought it. I don't know why. It's probably because I bought the PS4 for Spider-Man and God of War. But I loved Horizon Zero Dawn. I barreled through it, and it took me about 40 hours to complete the campaign. It's a long game, but it was well worth it. I recommend both of the Ori games, 100%. But Ori and the Will of the Wisps was an excellent sequel to an excellent first foray into kind of this. I mean, it's a platformer. If you're not familiar with Ori and the Blind Forest, which is the first one, it is a platformer with a beautiful art style, an excellent soundtrack, and the sequel came out. They changed up the gameplay enough to where it didn't get stagnant. It didn't feel like you were playing the same game again, but it also didn't feel unfamiliar, and they killed it on the soundtrack yet again. And then Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which also did not come out in 2020, but it was released at the end of 2020. It was the holiday season of, not 2020, it was the holiday season of 2019, and it dominated the first few months of my 2020 and a few weeks later on in the middle of it. So those were my 10 picks for the best content. We'll put it that way, because honestly, I only had one film in here. Well, technically
we talked
two,
about a few of these at length. We talked about Clone Wars when I did my Clone Wars binge. We talked about the boys.
We went through the Clone Wars because we did like a full rewatch, and we talked.
Oh
about
yeah,
it.
And you hadn't even seen the final season, so yeah, like I caught up to you, and then we watched the final season.
Well, so I hadn't seen past season 4. Season 4 or 5. I can't remember where I stopped.
You hadn't
honestly.
seen the Netflix season, which was season 6. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we caught those together. And so you can go back into our previous videos if you want to see how like more in depth we felt about those. They're on previous podcasts. We don't have any individual episodes talking about Clone Wars, I think. Or we probably do, but
but they're in the thumbnails. This is like our year, man, because we spent a lot of videos talking about Clone Wars. We spent a lot of videos talking about the boys. We spent a lot of videos. We spent a couple of videos talking about Jedi Fallen Order.
Every single just about every podcast episode that we had something on here, and then
Right.
Fallen Order got like 2 hour video devoted to it because you finally played it and fell
I
in love
finally
with
played
it. And
And then The Mandalorian, we just got done finishing our coverage of that, which was a
yeah,
lot. But
so season 2.
I'm so excited that you have Queen's Gambit on here because I've seen it like 3 times now, and you're in the middle of it. It's so damn good.
So honestly, I'll start with the Mandalorian. I don't like if you watch our channel, you know the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You know what you know where we're coming from. I think season 2 didn't necessarily do any better for me than season 1. I feel like I kind of held them at the same level of enjoyment. I really liked both of them. I don't consider them competing because it really is the continuation of the same story. They even refer to it as the first episode of season 2 as chapter 9. It's not, they're not really considering it a separate part of the story, and it really does pick up right where they left off. So we had like a great climax at the end of chapter 8, and then boom, right into chapter 9 we go, and it's full steam ahead the same way that we were before. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are my heroes in the Star Wars universe right now. They are crushing it. And honestly, I couldn't be more excited to see what they come up with. And especially after hearing like it out of Jon Favreau's own mouth that the Book of Boba Fett is not season 3 of The Mandalorian. It is it is its own thing. Season 3 of The Mandalorian will come after, however long. But still, like it was great to hear that he's not being replaced, because when that rumor was going around, I was getting really sad that Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, the title character, was going to get replaced by somebody else sometime in season 2. That made me really upset. And then we saw the direction that they went, and it's like, of course they wouldn't do that. Of course Favreau and Filoni wouldn't do that to us. They included some great elements from the Clone Wars, which we're talking spoiler free, so we're gonna leave it at that. They continue to do nostalgia the right way with the Star Wars universe and the vast amount of references that they could have made. I think they made them tastefully. One in particular they did really well, aside from maybe some visual effects, but honestly, with the time crunch and the craziness of 2020, who knows what that did to their production process. I don't know. But it's a show that has revolutionized filmmaking as well. So I absolutely recommend, after seeing the shows, to watch the behind the scenes, to go over the specific technology that went into making the series feel as real as it looks. Because they did an excellent job with that. I cannot sing the praises for The Mandalorian any further. Honestly, Josh, I know that you and I are pretty much in the same boat as far as the series goes, but do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, if we were talking about our top series of the year, The Mandalorian would definitely be on it. I agree with you 100%, other than the fact that I think the second season was better than the first season. I think it propelled the story along much better, although I think we both had issues with pacing in the first half. I think we had issues with pacing all over the place, but I think
had
it
issues
finally,
with pacing until like the last episode.
yeah, but I think it finally, like, where the first one was just like, okay, it is a story, but it just seems to be happening. Like the second season, even though on rewatch with my wife, it was just like every episode was a side mission. While that did get annoying, it did feel like it was opening up a new Star Wars universe worth of content. And then to get done with season 2 and have that Disney Investors Conference talking about all the stuff that's coming, that's launching off from this launch pad of The Mandalorian, and to see
And
the
then the
people that are
timeline.
involved in that, fuck, I got excited, man. I got so excited. And I truly believe that those things wouldn't be happening if not for how great The Mandalorian is. So yeah, man, all hail Filoni and Favreau, because damn, they are making it happen.
That is an important point to add, is that if you are interested, if you saw that investor presentation, you saw all the Star Wars content that's coming, a lot of that is going to be built off of the timeline and that The Mandalorian has kicked off. So it's definitely something I'm going to recommend that you watch just to get a baseline for all that other stuff. And you're not going to miss out because it's a great series. But speaking of great series, we'll talk about the Queen's Gambit next. Now, you are responsible for this because it was actually
Yes,
you made
I'm responsible for the Queen's Gambit.
You made a social media post. You made a social media post that I saw where which is rare. Like you don't do it a lot, but when you do, you generally aren't steering people wrong. But you made a post recommending a lot the Queen's Gambit. And I had seen, like, it had shown up obviously in my Netflix queue a few times where, like, as soon as you open it up, it automatically plays a trailer at like full 100,000 volume, blowing your ears out. The Queen's Gambit was one that showed up for me an awful lot. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, screw it. I'm going to check this out. I didn't know anything about it. I knew very nothing. Like I saw the screen. I saw that it was like an older time series. It wasn't a present day thing, and it had something to do with chess. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's give it a go. Let's see what it comes up with. I started it up in the background, and like I was working on editing something, and I kept on peering over, and within like the first 10-15 minutes, I had forgotten about the photo editing that I was doing, and I was just watching the show. And then without even thinking about it, I mean, part of this is because Netflix just plays the next episode for you, but like I didn't like do anything. Like I didn't even leave. I didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. It's just like, all right, it's episode 2 now, give me. Like,
It pulls you in.
Yeah, and so Cece had to get caught up because I told her, I was like, this is our next show. This is what we're watching right now. We had finished The Mandalorian. We had rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy as kind of part of like our holiday thing. And I was like, this is our next show. This is what we're watching on a nightly basis. This is our together show. And she's loving it now too. So we'll be done with that. We'll be done with the Queen's Gambit this week. Excellent set design, cinematography, the real like guts of filmmaking, like all that stuff. Very, very good watch. So I have to say thank you because you finally you pushed me over the edge. I was on the fence about it, and you just kind of like shoved me over to just fucking watch it, dude.
Well, I'm glad you did. I saw a trailer for it a long time ago. It has the girl from Glass and Split, and I thought she was great in those. She's also in New Mutants, and she's going to be the new. Speaking of Charlize Theron, you have on here, she's going to be the new, what's the Mad Max character of Charlize Theron? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember her name.
She's playing Charlize Theron's character in a prequel version of that. Anyway, she's a great actress, and I thought the trailer looked interesting, but man, you're right. Every element about this show pulls you in, from the set design to the acting to the cinematography to the drug-induced illusions. Just is so damn good. And then, I mean, months after I saw this show, I realized I knew it was based on a book. I didn't know it was based on a book by the same author that wrote The Color of Money and The Hustler, which are two fantastic pool movies with not Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and man, I'm just bad with names today. Tom Cruise and Paul Newman, and I've loved Paul Newman ever since I saw him in The Sting. Those are great billiards pool movies, and they talk about the game and the addiction to the game and the competition of the game. And this is just that, but with chess. And I've seen so many people watch this, you know, knowing nothing about chess, and yet they're just enthralled by it. I mean, the show is so damn good. It just pulls you in, man. And then I was heartbroken too, because a lot of people are like, tell me this is based on a true story. And of course it's not. but it's still
I mean,
really good.
it'd be a pretty
One
fucked
hell of a
up true
true story.
story, but
Well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, with the
the
tranquility stuff alone, but yeah.
yeah, no, it was I'm I'm thoroughly enjoying the series, and especially, and again, like I'm a cinematography like nerd. Like when you get me like that, like there's just some camera shots and some camera work that they do where I'm just like, oh shit, that was a good shot, and it's not even in like like a crazy moment in the show
Right.
or something like that. Like there's just moments where I can picture myself in the editing room being like, oh shit, this is a
Yeah.
banger, and then maybe having somebody peek over my shoulder and be like, "Oh shit, dude, that was great." Even though that's not how it works, they're told
Right.
kind of what to do there. But no, hats off to the team behind that one for sure.
Oh, and the
Um,
color grading. I had to say that too.
oh,
The color
dude,
grading. Whew.
they get it so well. Like, and a lot of that has to do with just the excellent lighting that they've done.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Like obviously, like the pivotal scene off of the first season. I mean, fuck, I'm not talking spoilers. Um, uh, watch it.
I try not to. Yeah,
Just go watch it.
So
Just
good.
go watch it.
It's so
Go and
good.
watch the first episode, and then hit us up in social media, and I'll be like, yeah, it was this fucking part here. Wasn't that cool?
Right.
Not even like an epic moment or anything like that. Like it just looks great.
Mhm. Mhm.
But epic moments was what the next part here was. That was what Clone Wars season 7 gave to us. Because
Mhm.
honestly, I mean, we had the first 4 episodes were um
Pretty good. Bad Batch episodes. They were great.
the Bad Batch episodes. It wasn't the first 4 I was thinking of. It was I
You were thinking the middle arc
was
with
thinking the sisters
the sisters.
episodes.
Yeah.
That I don't want to say that it sucked, but I mean, if we're talking about compliment sandwiches here, that was kind of what they gave us. They gave us some great clones moments, and then they gave us this boring as shit storyline with Ahsoka and the sisters. I don't know why they went in that direction.
That's how you bring Ahsoka back. We've talked
Yeah,
this in depth,
yeah,
but yeah.
we've gone
Go
through
back
it.
and
But
watch
then,
our Clone Wars episodes. We talked about this in length.
yeah. But then the last 4 episodes, the last 4 episodes are what really did this for me because of the way that the show was put out. They really put these episodes of this show together in a way to where you're really meant to watch them almost as if they were like little movies.
Oh yeah.
That was really kind of how it went. And so if I consider the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars season 7 as like, I mean, obviously like they're kind of like supplementing because all of those episodes are happening in conjunction with Revenge of the Sith.
Mhm.
The I mean, I mean, it's been said by so many different people. Like Dave Filoni changed the prequels for me.
Oh
He
yeah.
did this for a lot of people,
Fleshed him out.
and in the
Fle-
best possible way. These last 4 episodes were a huge contributor to that.
Mhm.
We got some of the best Star Wars moments that we've seen in recent years, and I'm including the sequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy can go and suck it compared to these 4 episodes of this show. That I'm
Mhm.
talking like we're talking about a prequel era piece of content beating out like 3 multi-billion dollar effort to produce like a sequel trilogy of films, and these last 4 episodes gave me more hopeful Star Wars feelings than any of them. I was awestruck by how I felt after them after a recent rewatch, because I checked them out again in my like I rewatched the Star Wars films because that's what I do. I rewatch a lot of stuff that I've seen already because I'm that much of a douche. To where I'm skipping out on new content so I can talk about it on my
You
YouTube
watch
channel.
Lord of the Rings for another
where-
billionth time.
Yeah, instead of watching new stuff, so I could talk about it on my YouTube channel. That's all about talking about new shit. I rewatch a bunch of stuff. It was on in the background. I was doing one of the other 5 million fucking things that I'm doing every given day.
Right.
And yeah, is just without talking about spoilers, this was the best feeling around Star Wars property, other than the Mandalorian this
Well,
year.
what
Like,
my
uh,
me and you are big Star Wars fans, so of course we're
yeah,
going to appreciate something like this. But seeing my wife appreciate it because she saw me play Jedi Fallen Order, so she then played Jedi Fallen Order after that, and then she binged Mandalorian. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, I thought that Katie Sackhoff character was cool, or the Dark Saber." And I was like, "Well, a lot of these things are pulling from the Clone Wars. Do you want to watch the Clone Wars?" So then me and her binged the Clone Wars, and she had seen me binging it earlier this year, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you watching this." And then by the time it got to the seventh season, I mean, she grew up with the prequels. She told me she had a big crush on Hayden Christensen and everything. And she was like, because we watched the prequels, right? We
that
watched,
that
we watched
explains
episode,
that. That explains something that you had talked about in the Mandalorian right off the
right? Right. Yeah.
bat.
I know exactly. So
Oh
we
man.
watched episode one and then episode two, and then we watched the majority of the Clone Wars all the way up until the last episodes, and then we watched them with the third episode of episode three, Revenge of the Sith. And she was like, "Man, she told me this. I didn't even have to prompt her. She was like, the Anakin in Clone Wars has so much more emotion. It adds so much to his story. She was invested in the final season. She, unprompted by me, thought that the sisters story with Ahsoka was such bullshit. And then she thought that the final arc was amazing. And she thought it was really well done. And she had a better appreciation for all the things she saw in The Mandalorian, like Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and the Dark Saber and everything. So to see somebody like her, who is not the hugest of Star Wars nerds, appreciate the Clone Wars for what it is, gives me hope that more people will check that out after the Mandalorian, because it's just that good.
Yeah. I still have to win my wife over to get her to watch it. She's a big anime fan, and unfortunately, the animation style here did not catch her eye.
It's something you got to get used to. But then by
Yeah.
the time the final season rolls around, even Maddie was like, "Whoa, this looks really
Oh
good."
yeah, they step it up big time in season 7. Because I think they finally got the budget that the show deserved, and
This could have easily been a throwaway for Disney Plus. They could have just been like, "Hey, we're going to just put some final episodes out there. Just like we did with Netflix, we're going to do some throwaway episodes." But no, they brought it home,
yeah.
and big win for Disney Plus.
um, something I did win the wife over on. We watched The Old Guard together.
Mhm.
So we saw that movie together, and I don't have a lot to say about The Old Guard. Both because a while since I saw it, and uh, we've got a lot more shit to talk about still.
Yeah, man,
Um,
we got a lot.
the old guard is great. It's another comic book property. I wasn't familiar with the comic beforehand. I saw the movie first. I still haven't looked into the comics. I don't know that I really plan to, because I like the medium that I have been given. We'll see what they come up with. Um, it's I mean, it's kind of a spoiler, but they leave it very open. I mean, it's a team up movie, so it's very clear that there's going to be another one.
They
Just kind of
hope for
based.
another one.
I mean, they hope for another one, but just the way that it's built, and I will watch the sequel because this one was quite good. This beat out a lot of other stuff, obviously, because it made my top 10. But um, some of the other movies that I watched this year were just shit. There are a lot of movies from this year that I need to catch, that I need to watch, and they'd probably knock the Old Guard down because the Old Guard made it in because I needed a 10th spot, but it's still very very good.
It
Don't
was good.
like I don't want that to be like something in there enjoyable to watch. There's some questionable music choices, not necessarily the music itself, but how they use it. That kind of threw me off. That's like the biggest point that I remember that was sort of a downer for me. And then a little bit too much predictability, but you get past that, and you're watching a good original, not original, but you're watching a good content. Uh, once again available on Netflix. We've been doing pretty much all of this has been like online streaming stuff, which is the world that we're in now.
That's been this year for sure.
Yeah, but Netflix has been dominating our top 10 lists so far. But not on Netflix. We're talking about The Boys. We're moving over to Amazon Prime now. I am glad that I kept my Amazon Prime for as long as I did to talk about The Boys. We have I'm taking too long on my side. We've got more categories to go through, but we have had podcasts specifically around The Boys. We did episode reviews. We did full season reviews. We talked about The Boys a lot. It's another comic book property, so we're talking about, and it's another one that I wasn't familiar with beforehand. I knew that there was a comic around it when it came out, but I was not a reader. I slightly regretted that I wasn't a comic book reader based off of the series, because the series was very good. And gave some of the most compelling superhero characters outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and outside of like the DC heavy hitters that we've seen for a long time. Obviously, people are trying to capture that that wonder that we get out of superheroes, and then this show comes along and it's like we're gonna be very aware of like what kind of superheroes we are wanting to make, and they're going to be parodies of here, like we're going to parodize and really fuck with your perception of some of the superheroes that you're most familiar with. And they did a really, really good job of it. Instead of it feeling like a parody, it does feel like its own content. It doesn't feel like it was made specifically just to do that. It stands on its own 2 feet. They've got 2 seasons now. And like I said, I grinded through the first season really fast. So we could talk about season 2 as it was coming out. This was another series that you had been harping on me to check out. And I finally did. Enjoyed it an awful lot. And again, there's some of the most compelling characters of the year came out of it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But to kind of like finish out the streaming side, because we got 2 more Netflix titles. We got The Social Dilemma, which I will say, I don't know necessarily what you didn't like about it, but I will say that something that I didn't like about it was just how much of a privileged alarmist point of view it seemed to come from. They were sound like, obviously we're talking about a documentary where it is the people who are responsible slash I guess responsible for the current world of social media and how dominant it is in everybody's daily lives. The documentary side of it, I really enjoyed. I'm going to talk spoilers, not necessarily spoilers, but I'm going to spoil like part of the element of it. I still recommend that you watch it because it's a very thought-provoking film. But the real story that they tried telling in the middle of the documentary, like they put together, like, I don't want to call them skits, but that's what I thought it was at first. Like they've got people like acting out these scenarios before they talk about them, and it was cringy at best. I did not like that part. But the actual like documentary side where they're talking to the tech experts who put together some of these algorithms that run, especially here on YouTube, like run our part of our lives, us being YouTube content creators. And then further going on into like Facebook, Google Plus, like I couldn't believe that Google Plus got mentioned, but it got mentioned. Twitter, especially, like there's just the dependency on cell phones that we have in the modern day, and how those business practices are not accidental in any way, shape, or form, which I don't think anybody believed that they did, but I don't know how intentional everybody thought them to be. But The Social Dilemma did make me kind of take a look at, it did what the film I think was intending to do. It made me take a look at what my usage on social media platforms is. And I did, as a result, end up putting my phone down a lot more frequently, or not necessarily putting it down more frequently, but not picking it up quite as much. And I did end up turning off some notifications just to kind of like as a result. So it was a very thought-provoking movie, which I think is the important thing, aside from the cringy skit part of it that they tried putting in there.
Yeah, you mentioned the people that are putting this movie out. It's a bunch of Silicon Valley
Yeah,
bros that are warning you of
bros.
Silicon Valley. And so immediately I was put off by these guys flashing their titles and their resumes on the screen while trying to act like they were the bringers of news that would, like they're trying to save you, even though this has been their life. This is who they are. This is why this is how they made their money,
Yep.
so it immediately put me off to, it felt like virtue signaling from a bunch of dudes that worked in Silicon Valley.
It
So
was really
immediately,
odd for these for
yeah.
these people who have a solidified career, a solidified
Mhm.
resume, and absolutely and honestly, like as it's perceived, no real threat to their job security, try and come off onto the moral high ground.
Right.
Um,
And then
it was that was tough to kind of get around, but the actual thought that they were trying to put in there for you did hit home, and it is a good message. Like it's not a like
it's not a bad message, but the whole thing about the intrusiveness and the manipulative nature of social media, it just rubbed me the wrong way with how manipulative they were being with this documentary. They were doing the documentary, the talking head type stuff, but then they were throwing in other things that were clearly fake, like behind the scenes conversations with the cameraman or the director that was meant to
yeah,
come off as genuine, that I immediately read as bullshit and scripted. They had like you mentioned, this skit type thing with following a family that was so unrealistic and overacted and poorly done that I was like, what is this? Is this a bad television show that they're splicing in with a documentary? And then on top of that, to cap it all off, the cherry on the fucking Sunday was that they brought Pete Campbell, Vincent
yeah,
Cassathier or whatever, the bitch villain from Mad Men, to play the evil algorithm that runs social media. So it
yeah.
wasn't just saying that social media can take over your life. It's saying that Pete Campbell times 3 is the evil algorithm that's attempting to run your life. And I got headaches from how much I rolled my eyes watching this. And maybe it's because I work in marketing, but I felt that half of the message they were saying could be applied to any form of advertising and not just social media. The invention of the billboard did shit that they were talking about, that they were acting like it was revolutionary to social media. And then, and maybe it's just me, I could be the outlier here. I turned my notifications off as soon as I realized I had the ability to do so. I've never been somebody that gets a ding from Facebook and I had to look at it. And maybe again, maybe that's just me. And I'm sorry if I'm just assuming that other people are like me. But it felt so over the top and overdone that I was just like, man, are people serious about this? Like this isn't a parody? Because I thought it was just ridiculous.
I mean,
And that's
I'm coming from a place where a majority of the stuff that I do is specifically catered towards content creation for social
That's
media
true. That's
consumption.
true. You do
And
have a different
so,
perception of this.
yes, so I've got YouTube channels that I'm posting content to. I have a photography career where Instagram is a majority of the outreach that I get from there. Um, I've got this podcast. I've got a solo cast that I do. Like, there's a lot of notifications that I find myself hoping that I am seeing. And there is a psychological effect to either seeing those or not seeing those. And it was something that I needed to look into. Something that required absolutely no psychological attention to detail or even even half a brainstem. I had to talk about Tiger King. I had to put Tiger King onto this list because the thing about it was just, first of all, it went viral, and that was 100% the
Oh,
reason
it,
that I
it
watched
went
it
huge. Yeah.
is because like first of all, like when you have something that is generating that many memes right off the bat, like in its first couple days, I'm like, okay, what the fuck am I missing here? But
Mhm.
the reason that I started watching it now, I don't know how many people watched Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, but when they were talking about the 2016 election, the campaign ad that you do see in the Tiger King documentary from Joe Exotic, like he ran as a third party candidate in 2016, and his ad showed up. I mean, obviously they were making it a joke, but they were talking about third party candidates on that particular
Sure.
episode of Last Week Tonight, and so I recognized the guy as that awfully weird dude whose campaign ad was just fucking perfect. Honestly,
Mhm.
his campaign ad is hilarious. And so when this came out, I was like, all right, we got to watch this. It became another one of me and Cece's like nightly routines where we caught the latest, or where we watched an episode and just kind of continued on. It was hilarious. The thing is that it was a well-made documentary on top of that. Like
That
it's,
came out at the perfect time to
yeah,
just
yeah, right at the
capture the
beginning of
world.
lockdown,
Yeah.
like right when COVID was starting to get crazy there, you know what? The world's getting insane. How do we top this? All right, a dude who owns tigers, or a bunch of people who own tigers, one bitch who probably fed her ex-husband to a tiger, and
Mhm.
a dude with like a multi-gay orgy tiger camp that he's got going on, and
It's
carries a gun
incredible.
everywhere with a weird limp and unexplained missing body parts all over the place. Like it's just
So
like
incredible.
like there's so
Like
much about it that was
you
just
can't
like,
make this shit up, and yet you can't believe that it's true. Like, it's just
just
it was
so
so
much.
incredible.
Every episode they brought out like another element where you're like, how is this happening?
How? Yeah.
How is this legal? Like
And
how is
the
this?
people that made the documentary, this wasn't even their plan. They just stumbled upon this dude while they were doing
No,
something like they were doing something about snakes. And the dude was
it
like,
was another
"Snakes?
like
Have you ever
exotic
heard of
animal
tigers?"
thing.
Yeah, it was
Like
totally different. They,
like
and then they happened upon this dude and they make the biggest documentary series of the year.
dude, it doesn't matter if you're just taking a piss in the desert and you see gold. You're like, all right, this is what I'm focused on
Right.
now.
Right.
Like yeah,
So crazy.
that was what the Tiger King was, and holy shit, was it worth the watch?
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's the best out of anything, but I mean, it was a great piece of entertainment. For like, honestly, if this hadn't been released during the lockdowns when COVID was really starting to take off, and
Mhm.
streaming and staying home was a big thing, I don't know that it would have done as well. I honestly
Yeah.
think that the timing of its release had a huge amount to do with why it ended up taking off.
Oh,
Um,
for sure. There was a lot of variables that just fell in perfect sync that I think it would have somebody would have found it. It's not
I
like
think it still
Netflix
would have
hasn't
done
had
good.
other big like To Catch a Murderer or to whatever that one show is. They've had a lot of
Making a Murderer.
documentary series on Netflix that have done well.
Yeah.
So I think this would have eventually found some type of limelight, but yeah, never on that scale. I think the COVID thing propelled it into everybody's face.
The yeah, absolutely worth the watch. Again, it's a documentary, so I mean, I
But it's entertaining as fuck.
yeah, I had two
So entertaining.
documentaries in my top 10 list for the year, but still,
Yeah.
man, so good. Um,
Mhm.
and then I honestly I couldn't make a top 10 list without putting video games in there, as I said. So with as much as they dominate my time, like there have been a lot of people who've said that video games are going to be like a dominant force in the storytelling world in the
Mhm.
future, and that is absolutely true. Um, and yeah, there's great stories to be told. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, you're talking about like obviously just from the screen that you're seeing here, looks primitive but not primitive at the same time. So you're actually playing as a character who is alive in a world after our civilization has crashed.
Yeah.
You're
I've
dealing
heard
with
good things
a
about this.
yeah, you're dealing with a part of the world. I think it's actually set in Colorado. Um, but
Oh, really?
you're dealing with a time in the world that is hundreds of thousands. Like I think it's somewhere around 300,000 years in the future from now. And the world has collapsed. There's a great merging of primitive views and technology, and an excellent artificial intelligence element to it that is just like it's really well put together. There is a lot of lore that they include, and that it's part of the collectibles world. You get to learn more about what happened. So they had an excellent writing crew who are building this world around this, so it's much deeper to get you even further invested. It's a great. The main character is really good. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. The voice actress, but
oh yeah, I know who she is because I remember reading about that. I can't think of her name.
I'm trying to find. Yeah, Ashley Birch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who is I mean, she wasn't in a bunch of stuff that I'm familiar with, but she did an excellent job.
I knew her from Final Space. Final Space was great. If you haven't seen that, she's good in that. But
there's a few other characters. Good deal. There's a few other characters that are also equally well voice acted. I think that's a big element in video games to kind of sell you on the world. If the voice acting isn't good, it can take you out of the experience in an instant. And they didn't have that problem with this one. There's a few moments, but not enough to like break you out of the world. But I started playing, it showed up on Steam during the winter sale, which I think still might be going on. But it was just, it is still going on until tomorrow. So if you're a PC gamer, you got to get in on that. But yeah, it was originally released for the PS4. So I could have been playing it this whole time, and I kind of regret not getting into it sooner. But yeah, it was released for PC. It came out with, and it's got all the elements of a video game that I really like when it's a single player experience. There's a new game plus for when you complete it, where you don't have to go through the bother of getting all of the skills and equipment that you had before. So you get to take it on to a higher difficulty without having to start at the bottom of the totem pole in the world and make it just that much harder. There's a massive amount of achievements, and I'm a big achievement junkie when it comes to games like that.
I know you are.
So that did a really good thing. And the story is super long. Like I said, you could easily, if you did just the story missions or the missions that allowed you to get through the story comfortably, you're looking at 20 to 30 hours of gameplay alone. Which is a good length, I think, for a modern game. And that's not including any of the side quests, and there's a massive amount of it. And there's also DLC that I haven't even gotten to touch yet because I've just completed the main game. So I absolutely recommend jumping into this for you console players if you hadn't played it already, and for my PC gaming watchers.
It's similar to I haven't played Red Dead Redemption, and I know it's a different type of story, but it's that type of game, that open world type of gameplay.
Yes.
Am I correct in saying that? Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of exploration. You are free to take on things as you want to. It's got a linear story, but you're free to tackle that whenever you want to, and that's
like Zelda Breath of the Wild type stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of. I've only seen the trailer for it, and I haven't played it because I don't have PS4 or PC. It would support it, but yeah, I've kind of seen that.
Well, like I said, man, I'm even more. If I was going to throw this game into the mix, I'd be even more compelled to let you borrow my console for a while.
I know. Eventually, I need to do that
to get into just for God of War alone. If God of War had come out in 2020, it would have been just the God of War tag over our entire top 10 list. I'd just been like, this mission was like number 1, this mission was number 2, all that stuff. That was a big thing. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. An excellent addition to this. Waited a long time for this. They did not. They took their time between sequels. I don't know if COVID had anything to do with the late release. I don't imagine that it did, because this was out in early 2020. I think it was out in March. of 2020, and obviously, if you're a big speedrunner, Ori and the Blind Forest had a little bit of recognition in that arena, but it was just it's an excellent game. It's a beautiful art style. It's very pleasing to look at, very pleasing to listen to. And again, it's another achievement game for me. And so when the sequel was coming out, I was ready to jump on that immediately. So it came out, and again, it captured all of the it captured all of those same. It felt like I was playing the first game again. So it was like, again, it wasn't unfamiliar. I was having the same feelings, but for a completely different game, for like a new gameplay style that is still familiar enough to where it does feel like a proper sequel. Like it was just really, really good, and it's part of my my achievement. It's one of those difficult achievement grabbers. Like it's a platformer, and so there's some difficulty in there as far as what you might want to be able to complete. But
That's a high praise though for a video game. Normally sequels don't hold up very well, so that's pretty high praise coming from you.
yeah, which might have something to do with the amount of time that they took in between them. They're like, you know what, we're going to get this exactly right.
Yeah.
Gareth Coker was on for, I believe, was on for the soundtrack again, and the soundtrack was on my my Spotify playlist for like quite a long time. He brings in like the right guests. It's just it's an excellent all around experience as far as like taking in a great visual. And this is available for Xbox, and I know you're in on that marketplace now, so you could play both of these.
Yeah, I've seen it on there, and I've heard good reviews, and yeah, you're hyping it up. I do love a good video game soundtrack, so you're checking all the boxes right now.
It's an excellent story with minimal dialogue. It's a short story, I will say that. Like one of the achievements is beating the game in under 3 hours, and you can do that without any glitches, without like just straight up barreling through it. I have achieved it. I'm quite proud of that. But yeah, so if you were watching Nerf Herders Assemble back in my my live streaming days for Ori and the Blind Forest, you can still find those videos. There's a playlist of that, and an unsuccessful attempt to beat it without several attempts to beat it without dying. I might pick that back up later. Who knows? But I got to get my chops back. But the sequel captured all of that magic again. So I absolutely recommend catching Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And I'm not going to say a huge amount about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order because if you really want to get my outlook on that game, we have a 2-hour episode of the N.A.P that we did not terribly long ago where we went over just about everything. In a non-spoiler fashion, I will say, play this game, Star Wars fan or not. There's a difficulty setting for just about everybody. If you only want the story, there's a mode for that. It will handhold you through the game so you can literally get the story and still get a fun gaming experience. If you're looking for a challenge, you can find that too.
I know we've already talked about this, but take a moment, just talk about it for a little bit. My mom has shown up at my front door with a phone emergency that she needs me to fix, so I need to step away for 3 minutes max to fix her phone. Talk up Fallen Order. Tell people to go watch our other video on it. I'll be right back. But you have a little moment to talk it up.
I'll tell a little story super fast. So,
okay,
I'm hooked on Jedi Fallen Order for the majority of 2020's early stages, especially during lockdown. You've got an excellent character portrayal by Cameron Monaghan, who, I mean, if you watch Gotham and you saw him as Joker, you might not be super stoked about that. But I would not hold that against him for this particular performance. He does a great job. He has an understanding around what being a Jedi in his era is. You're talking about between the Jedi Purge. We're talking about a few years after the Great Jedi Purge, after Order 66 is when this game takes place. So you're dealing with the world in that you're dealing with a world inside that timeline, with a, if you want to call him a fallen Jedi under non-spoiler sessions, you can absolutely do that. Um, the it's an absolutely excellent game. I think that a majority of the Star Wars video games that are out there, aside from maybe the Battlefront games, have been an excellent addition to the Star Wars world of storytelling. They touch into the deep lore an awful lot, and this game didn't jump into it too terrible much, and it dealt with a lot of familiar elements, but at the same time, it made itself its own, took us to some new planets, while touching on the familiar stuff in the right way, which I think was perfect. And like I said, there is a 2-hour long episode of the N.A.P. I don't know if it was specifically the N.A.P, but we did a show specifically devoted to Jedi Fallen Order, specifically because Josh had not played it. He picked up a console. I believe he picked up an Xbox. I'll ask him when he gets back from handling his emergency, but he picked up an Xbox. I don't think that it was specifically to play this game, but if it was, I give him all the praise in the world. But he ended up loving it, which is great news. And Josh isn't, as far as I know, Josh isn't a huge gamer, as far as like modern consoles go, which might have something to do with why he hadn't had a console yet. But I do believe that this pushed him over the edge, and I'm slowly converting him to play more video games a little bit more frequently. And his wife, Maddie, even jumped into it as well. She played it on story mode and pissed him off a lot because of how much easier story mode is compared to the version that he played on. I have a full... So not only do we have a 2-hour review to the game where we talk about Josh's first interactions with it, but there's also a full playthrough commentary series. There's a playlist on our channel to where you can watch. I actually play through the game in its entirety. I don't skip anything out. So you get the full story. I don't talk during the storylines. I let it go through so you can kind of experience it, and I review as we go. So if you want like full details on, if you loved the game as much as I did and you just kind of want to get into it, those are a great set of videos to watch. If you know nothing about the game but don't have a console or a PC powerful enough to play it, check out the commentary playthrough just to get the story alone. I highly recommend it. Josh, has the emergency been averted?
Yes, we fixed it. Good to go. And I did have consoles before. I just let them go, and because the Batman Arkham season was done, or the franchise was done, and
I don't think that I was wrong in my assessment that you are not what I would consider a huge gamer. Like it doesn't dominate a bunch of your time.
I'm not. I've played.
I mean, I know that you've got a basement full of arcade cabinets, but
yeah, I do. I do like old school arcades, but as far as modern gaming, I've played all the Halo games. I've played all the Batman Arkham games and the Doom games. Those are like the three. I really haven't played a lot of other things. But yeah, thankfully to you, I tried Fallen Order, and God, I was hooked. I was hooked on that. Loved it so much.
I finally got one piece of content where you hadn't had any experience with it, and I had, and I finally got to like irk you into doing something.
Yeah, you got me. And it was good. So
normally the other way around in this world.
Well, let's go on to. Are you good? Or do you want to go on to the next one? Because
I'm all set. Let's move on to our next category here.
We've got a couple smaller categories here. I think we have like 5 more that won't take 40 minutes each. But I'm trying to get to the screen here. Okay, best villain of all of the media that we've seen this year, and it's funny because we both had villains from the same show.
and honestly, I kind of put Homelander and Vought in general in kind of like the same boat.
But that's cheating.
I know it is kind of cheating. Which I think Stormfront kind of falls into. I found Homelander to be more off the cuff because I found him to be a more compelling villain because he was just more. it's weird to say, but he was more human. He was more emotionally unstable. He wasn't as calculated.
He was.
He was far more unpredictable. Which, when you have a 300 megaton nuke that is
Mhm.
Homelander and it's out of control, that is a very scary villain. You had no idea what he was gonna do, and he can do anything.
I
Um,
agree, and I really did like. I love Homelander. I think he's great, and he is why I'm looking forward to season 3 of The Boys. Because without getting into any spoilers, season 2 sets up a man. You don't want to be the fuck around this guy in season 3.
no,
I mean, they put him through the ringer. And if this was only based on season 1, I would have said Homelander. But season 2, um, Stormfront is gosh, I don't want to piss anybody off, but she pissed off a lot of people. Um, I don't know if you followed any of the trending stuff around Homelander, but there was a lot of people that watched this show and liked Stormfront until they found out she was a Nazi. And I'm not going to go into any more spoilers than that, but there were people that got pissed because they really liked her, and I think she represents. I know it's kind of scary to say, but I think she represents an element of modern culture that is so dead on that I was like, oh my god, they got her
dude,
right.
that is not an unusual thing because, I mean, if you go back in history, like, Hitler didn't take power out of absolutely fucking nowhere.
No,
Like, it was
no,
a slow burn. Like,
yeah, and
he came to those people with a compelling message, and then the batshit crazy kind of came afterwards.
but to
Like,
see people like me and you pick up on things. And Grant, and I haven't read the comics for this. I've purposely not read
neither
the
had I.
comics for this. But to see, and so I had no idea. But I picked up on shit from the beginning, and some was blatant, some wasn't, and I was like, oh, she's gonna turn out to be a flaming racist, and she did. And I just loved her, and
Yeah.
the fact that this person over here manipulates this person a lot, uh, made me put her above him as far as best villain. But I want to see where he goes because I feel like season 3 is gonna just be. I hope it's just him and pure carnage.
See, there was yeah, there's a I mean, we did kind of let loose a pretty big spoiler as far as the boys goes. Just
Yeah,
saying that she was a Nazi, but
but
um
fuck that. We've already talked about this for so much. I can't
yeah,
not talk
we've
about why she's a villain. She's not a good guy, guys.
honestly, if you haven't seen the boys yet, and you saw these people come up, and you're like, oh, they'll totally talk about them in a non-spoiler, like, I'll have no hints as to what to expect out of this at all. I mean, just by seeing her up there as on our best villain category tells you a lot, because that's not necessarily what they allude to in the trailers right off the bat anyway.
The
um
fact that this show was written and filmed in 2019 before the shit that happened in 2020 in terms of racial politics, in terms of regular politics, in terms of
I
just,
mean,
I mean,
the
there's
world was
so much
pretty
that's
nuts
dead on
already.
about the show. It was like they wrote her character based on the summer of 2020, and they didn't. And it was so dead on. I mean, it was the perfect time to release it. And I just loved it. She was great. And it's funny because she's actually a really good actress. She's been in a couple other roles and not like obviously not this type of role. And she filled it great. I just thought overall I really liked her, but I'm not arguing with you. I think Homelander was great as well. He's a nightmare of a villain, and that's why I'm really scared for what he'll turn out to be.
Yeah, that's kind of why I put her at that higher why I put Homelander at that higher point, is simply because, like, a lot of the stuff that Stormfront did, like, as you learned about her character, it wasn't surprising. Like,
Right.
these were kind of the things that you would sort of expect out of her.
Sure.
Whereas Homelander, like, he has one bad day, you have no idea what he's going to do. I mean, there's a scene in the trailer where he's lasering like a crowd of people and just
Mhm.
massacring these people in a second. I mean, and they sold it so well that you thought that that was what actually happened. It ended up being a vision in his head, but still, it was like,
Yeah.
these are the thoughts that this guy's
He's on the line of doing that for real. And it's it's a good villain when you're waiting for him to cross that line.
Yeah.
You and we like villains like Gus, and which is funny because we he's Gus is in Breaking Bad.
It's
He's
so
in The
weird calling him
Mandalorian.
Gus.
He's in The Boys. His name isn't Gus. I know it's not Gus, but I call him Gus because that was my first. But yeah,
somebody calls him Gus. Somebody in his
go
personal life
fucking
calls
watch
him
The
Gus.
Boys. There's so much about it that's worth your time.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll have season 3 this year. So we'll see. We
next
still
up,
don't know how crazy things are going to be.
Yeah, I and there's a spinoff as well. So Amazon is all in for this series, and I'm so glad to see that. That's great. We talked about best series. This was your best series, right? Did I read or was it not your best series? Did I read your message right? I could have sworn you said this
it was pretty easy decision.
Okay. And you haven't even finished it yet,
no, I haven't even finished it yet.
And I can promise you right now, there's nothing about the finale that's gonna be like, oh fuck you, So I don't think you're gonna take this back once you finish the show. But
it was tough putting this here and not putting Mandalorian. It was very difficult.
All these shows up so much. I'm surprised.
The boys is an easy third place. It's not as close to my heart as Star Wars content is, and it wasn't quite as well shot as the Queen's Gambit or the Mandalorian for that matter. Still super, super, super good. Don't get me wrong, but we're talking about some top tier content right now. And I think the reason that the Queen's Gambit has hit me so hard, so easily already, is I'm not finished. I'm close. But just the fact that I cared about her character very early on in the first episode, and you root for her so hard, regardless of the issues. There's an obvious mental illness theme throughout the entire show so far that is very close to me, particularly for somebody who suffers from that. There's an addiction element to it that I also had to relate to, and also there's an obsession element to it as well. There's so many things that they captured so well, and Anya Taylor-Joy does a great job of portraying it. That it just put it got so close to me, and again, I'm not even done with this yet. But I relate to her character so much right off the bat. Obviously, I'm not an orphan, so I don't connect to that. But I mean, it's not just about her being an orphan. There's a certain disconnect that she has with other people that she has a hard time getting around, and it's just wildly compelling. Very I don't have a lot of adjectives to describe this properly. They've struck gold with this series. Netflix again has done it again. It's an excellent series. Mini series. I cannot wait to finish it. We're close. I've only got, close by my standards because I can sit down and watch quite a bit. I cannot wait to see more. I'm not going to tell you what episode I'm on because I don't want to talk spoilers about this in
Yeah,
any capacity.
'cause I'll start doing it. we
Yeah,
should we should
I
have a
have a feeling.
recap episode though, or at least part of a
When
future
we
episode where we
yes,
talk about it.
when I finish this series, we will absolutely. It'll probably be the next episode that we have because I'll be done
Okay.
with it by then. Um, but yeah, Queen's Gambit got my vote for best series of 2020 very easily.
Yeah, me as
If
well.
I could relate and I had personal experience being a spacefaring dude with a jetpack and a kid and a spaceship and all that stuff, Mandalorian would have won 100%. But unfortunately that is not something that I can have on my resume.
Well, yeah, I think like you said, there's a lot of elements in this film that even if you've never played chess or if you've never had these specific circumstances, a lot of people can relate to. And I just this show gave me hope for modern cinema because we live in the land of remakes, not just
Yeah.
remakes of movies, but remakes of shows and reboots and sequels. And I'm not docking anybody on that. One of my biggest things that I can't wait for in 2021 is Dexter's return. I can't fucking wait for that shit. I will watch that the day it comes out. But the fact is, this show was based on a book in 1983 that some people, the director says that he knows people in the industry have been trying to make this for 30 years. And it was so damn good, so good for have never been adapted before, and it was just the right amount of everything in it, and hands down the best series this year, and it's not even because of COVID. Like, there's a lot of things this year that I think I would have probably said was better this year than I would have said was better in other years because of COVID and us just thankful for what we got. But this was so damn good, and it's currently in a time where we have so many so damn good shows that this rose to the top. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and a lot of people found it when it first came out, and then it started seeping into other people's views. And yeah, I haven't met one person that hasn't just bent over backwards for this show. So
Like
yeah, if you haven't seen it, go damn see it.
this would have been one of those shows back in the early days of Breaking Bad and Walking Dead, where everybody you knew like had a guy who was that annoying dude who was like, dude, have you watched this yet? You gotta watch it, dude. You gotta watch
the show
it.
about chess, man.
Like it's another one of those shows, and yeah,
It's really good. Our next category was, what was it? Best streaming network, and we do not agree on this.
So I won't say that we disagree. I just say that
picks.
I have a different reasoning for mine than I think what we have, but I still think Netflix knocked it out of the fucking park with this one. I'm looking at it specifically from a business perspective. Also, from an entertainment perspective, I spent a lot of time watching Disney Plus. I spent a lot more time watching Disney Plus stuff than I thought that I would. I mean, with the Mandalorian releasing this year, obviously, like that was one of my most anticipated series of the year. Like I was absolutely stoked. I was beyond stoked to catch the next season of the Mandalorian. Like there was so much that they had led us to. It was like, oh my god, this is gonna happen. I can't believe it. I can't wait. The Marvel Infinity Saga is on there almost in its entirety. We're missing the Spider-Man movies, but that I got to do my Marvel rewatch this year, like because of Disney Plus, and like I didn't have to bust out every single Blu-ray that I have. I didn't have to switch to multiple different platforms in order to do it. When I did my Star Wars rewatch, I watched the Disney Plus versions, which was weird because I'm used to watching like the special edition DVDs or Blu-rays, but and there's some differences in the original trilogy that again I was a little bit annoyed by, but beyond I could go on and on about that, but and then yeah, just like the move that Disney Plus was making, and especially at this investor presentation where they're investing so much into it, like the hype around Disney Plus is fucking real.
Sure, but that's for next year.
That is for next year, but they announced it this year, and so my hype was astir. Then we also got season 7 of the Clone Wars, which again
Mhm.
was a defining moment in the Star Wars universe to me.
Yep.
Like these are Star Wars is easily the closest IP to my heart. Like like as far as properties go, that is a franchise that, I mean, no one else comes closer than Star Wars. Um, those are the films where, like, even after the sequel trilogies, even after the sequel trilogy that broke my heart. Didn't ruin my childhood or anything like that, because that's not how media works.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was just there's just something about it that Disney Plus was like, you know what? I feel like they're making the right moves. I've got more hope for Disney Plus becoming an absolute battering ram through the doors of the top streaming services that Netflix is already in.
Mhm.
Netflix is already in there, and the reason that I didn't go with Netflix is because I feel like Netflix was uh hold your course. They're already up there. They're already doing really good. They kept on doing really good. And honestly, that's kind of what I've come to expect out of Netflix at this point. It's like, you guys have the formula right. Don't fuck it up. They didn't fuck it up. So they
Mhm.
met my expectations. My expectations for Netflix are high, but they met those expectations. Disney exceeded my expectations for what they were coming in onto, and so for that they earned my best streaming service for 2020, which, as we'll both admit, is kind of a new category. Really, like there's
It
enough
is. It
there's
is.
enough competition in this world now to where
It's a
this is something that
booming
we
new
had to talk about.
category. Yeah, it's a booming new category, but there are clear high tiers and low tiers. And listen, the reason why I didn't put Disney Plus as my top pick is because Disney Plus sucks. And I'm kidding, it doesn't suck. But here's the thing: I agree with everything that you said, and I also will give you the caveat that the biggest things that Disney Plus said is coming in 2020, this time, in October and November of 2019, didn't come because of things that they couldn't control. It wasn't
Yep.
like they dropped the ball. It was things they couldn't control. So I am in no way putting that on Disney. Disney gave me Clone Wars, and it gave me a place where I could binge an entire series that I've never seen before, and it was glorious. They gave me that at the beginning of the year, and then they capped off the year with The Mandalorian. So, yes, very big wins. They also had some losses. They tried to do something big over the summer with Hamilton. Nobody gave a shit. They tried to do Mulan, which I give them props for doing something that nobody else did, but that was a big fail as well. However, again, not putting that on them. The reason I picked Netflix is because when Disney Plus came out, everybody said this is the Netflix killer. And I thought that that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But
No, yeah.
Netflix not only held their own, Netflix got us through 2020. Netflix consistently gave us new stuff every fucking week of this year. When we didn't have new TV shows, when we didn't have new movies, half the movies we've talked about tonight came from Netflix. And, I have favorite shows that came out on Amazon this year that I'm very happy for. One of my top 10 came from Hulu of all places, and I'll give Disney Plus all the accolades. Not hating on Disney Plus, that was all a joke, but Netflix got me through 2020, and it had consistent wins, and consistent outpouring of stuff. And it had some controversies of its own that a lot of people jumped in on over the summer, but which I didn't agree on. However, it just consistently gave content, and it proved to be the superior service. Now, does that mean that it's the only reason it did that I will say is because it's been around for so long, because they've built themselves on that pedestal, it would be hard for even COVID to knock them down. But they
True.
could have failed this year, and instead they succeeded. And I think that they will have harder competition going forward. And I think Disney Plus, like you said, is making moves that no other studio is making in terms of the streaming world. And they will be Netflix's biggest competitor by far. But Netflix, this was their year to shine. They've been around for a fucking decade, man. And COVID was their year to say, this is why we are so big, because we've amounted to this. And I believe that in a year where there's not a lot of wins, we need to give them that win. And that's why I'll give it to them. But they laid the foundation for people like Disney. And that's not a knock on Disney, but that's definitely if you could give them the Lifetime Achievement Award in streaming, it would go to Netflix right now, because, man, they have built a foundation on which, these mountain services like Disney Plus will build off of. And it's an exciting place to be, and to see them shine in such a shitty year was just inspiring to me.
I like the point that you made about also about Disney, and ironically about Disney Plus. Obviously, was my pick, so of course this is the comment that I pick out. But when you're talking about Mulan and how they tried to handle that situation, I mean, if you take that in a stark contrast to HBO Max, like maybe it's because the people behind Mulan were also Disney and didn't have, maybe even if they weren't behind Disney, maybe they didn't have the balls to try and take Disney to court. But HBO Max is in some hot water because, and it might have something to do with the fact that not only were they like, hey, we're putting this on our streaming service, there's nothing you can do about it, but they also didn't put it behind any specific paywall or anything like that. Whereas Disney was like, we're going to put this behind a specific paywall.
Yeah.
Now that's
they're in legal.
Yeah,
legal,
HBO Max is in some
hot water.
shit.
They're already walking back their Dune stuff, and possibly their pretty much anything that Legendary is attached to.
Well, and it sounds like a lot of those properties found out that they were moving to exclusive streaming on that announcement. Like they didn't get a heads up beforehand.
Oh
either.
yeah, they were and it's day and date, but it's still massively different than theatrical exclusives. And I mean, they were doing it under this shady, gray line of, well, we're the distributor, but the investors were like, well, we fucking paid for it. So,
I'll tell you.
That was a tense thing to watch. It's kind of a shady thing that they did.
I'll tell you a streaming service that absolutely does not win Best Pick and will never win Best Pick, and if anything gets a Razzie for being the shittiest one, it's fucking Peacock.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Quibi.
No,
Quibi fucking lived and died in 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's why it doesn't matter, because this is gone.
That's true.
But fucking Peacock is apparently here to stay, and they took The Office away from me on Netflix.
Oh my god, and I felt that. I felt that in the first hours of 2021. Oh my god, man. I felt that loss.
Dude, it was yesterday. I was editing some photos, and I was like, you know what? I gotta have some sound on in the background. I was gonna throw on The Office, and wasn't fucking there. And I'm like, God damn it, what do I gotta do? And then I was looking up Peacock, and as it turns out, there were some fucking people who were like watching it on Peacock, and they're having to watch it as if they were watching on TV. They're getting ads in between.
Because it's commercials. It's with commercials. That's why it's free. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely. But apparently there isn't a paid tier to get around that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. But
I believe there's one coming. But yeah, it's. If
there's one coming, they're still dropping the ball. Seriously, you launched your streaming service, took the biggest reason for people wanting to move over there, and you didn't add a paid tier. Dropped the ball.
Oh, I know.
Fuck off.
I know, right? I know.
Are you serious? Yeah, Quibi. I don't really care about Quibi in the slightest being gone, and apparently neither did Quibi because they didn't really put up a fight to keep them on there.
They lost billions of dollars, but I'm sure they're. I think they're just they can't speak because someone's balls is so deep down their throat for where the fuck is my money. But
dude, putting out as many Super Bowl commercials as they did, I think is where they dropped the ball.
God. I was
Like, you
so
spent way
annoyed
too
by
much
those.
money on that and not enough on
Way too
actually giving
much.
us a proper reason to watch that shit. Quibi was
Way.
essential. Quibi wasn't even a streaming service. I would call it like they were trying to compete with YouTube to some
It was
degree,
the
and they
Vine
and
of
it just
cinema. It was just ugh.
it's like, you're gonna give me a 10-minute max on something when, right? Don't get me wrong. People have short attention spans when it comes to watching videos, but
Hmm.
not when it comes to watching like full-fledged content. I don't want
Right.
10 minutes. If I'm going to watch something that's like written, scripted, and all that shit put together,
And there
and you're going to tell me that it's 10 minutes long, go fuck yourself.
or shorter.
Like,
Or oh, you can watch it vertically. Is
oh
their
God, that was the worst
excuses for
idea.
how it failed are just there's so many. So we could talk all day about that. Peacock though, I have a bad obsession with or not obsession, but a bad habit of watching clips of The Office on YouTube and then being like, "Oh, I want to see the rest of that episode," and popping over to Netflix. And I did that on January 1st, and I was like, "Damn it, I forgot." Uh, but I will give Peacock one accolade, one compliment, in that in their first day of having it on their platform, they released a scene from The Office that I have never seen before, which is unheard of because I love The Office. They released a cold open that has never been shown before, and it was a Matrix prank that Jim Halpert does on Dwight. Never seen it in my life. It's like a 5-minute scene, and it's amazing. So it's
Okay.
on YouTube.
I would have thought that you'd have seen that already. That was on. That's been out for a
It,
little
it
while, but
it's
it's
not. It
great.
hasn't been widely shared,
It
and it
hasn't
was
been widely shared, but unfortunately,
but
not a lot of the deleted scenes have. But yeah,
right. But I
he
haven't
got
seen that one.
Jim got everybody involved on that one. That was great.
Yeah, that was a big one. But that was great. But yeah, again, I'm not switching over to Peacock. We have two more because we're talking about short attention spans. We're already coming up on 2 hours here.
Yeah,
But
and I changed my pick like as we were like doing this episode, because I realized that I
of
gave you
course
my
you
pick
did.
for comic property as the old guard, when I should have given it to you as the
Boys.
boys. But I think we were talking about comic property film.
I think
like
at
when we
some
were
point
talking about the discussions.
I might have said comic film and then I switched it to property because I thought you were going to go with the boys. But
Yeah, I would have gone with the boys if we had just been talking property for sure. So
all right,
I'll
well,
just leave it at
I'm just
that.
gonna say boys over this. We already talked about Extraction. I thought Extraction, having read the graphic novel, I thought it was a good adaptation. But we've
The
already
old
talked
guard's
about
still
these.
good. The
The
old
old
guard
guard.
is still
I,
good.
I had issues with it, but I didn't have issues that I like hated the film. And I love Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron in an action role. She's like Liam Neeson in an action role. Just give it to me. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And she's
Those
awesome.
music choices, though, man. Those music choices totally
Oh, there was
broke me out of the immersion
for sure. There was
every
other
time.
choices in that film that broke me out as well. But for the most
Yeah,
part, I thought it was good.
the music was the big one for me. I'm a big audio guy.
I know you are.
Fuck that.
One more. Anticipated. So, what was your biggest property that was supposed to come out in 2020 that got pushed because of COVID or one thing over another that is now officially set for 2021? You said WandaVision. I said Dune. I'm stoked for WandaVision. And what are we like? We're like 9 days away or 11 days away. That's because it comes
9,
out on the 15th, I think, right? Comes out on the 15th or the
11.
13th.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 11 days.
11.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm stoked for this, man. I can't wait.
Well,
I cannot wait.
I thought it was the 13th too. I was kind of excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 15th makes way more sense because that's a Friday.
It does.
Yeah. No. Especially now, like I've done a little bit of digging because I'm so sick of waiting for it. They're releasing new stuff. They just put out like another trailer. I don't know if you want to call it a trailer. It's 15 seconds long. It's called Signal. And they put it out yesterday.
I didn't watch it. Any good?
I mean, a lot of it's content that we've already seen. So it's really just kind of like another thing in there. But like they've released some snippets. There's another 1 minute things called A New Era where some new visuals have been spotted. A lot of people are starting to speculate about the villain. Like I'm watching it right now. Um, it's a lot of stuff that we've seen already. It's
I
still
think they confirmed the episode count with that signal. I think I saw it, didn't I? At the end of it, I haven't seen it, but I saw a screenshot from the end that said confirmed it was 9 episodes.
I
So
didn't see
something
that.
came out yesterday that confirmed it was a 9-episode series. They haven't released how long the episodes are. Are they going to be, 30 minutes or less like The Mandalorian? Are they going to be your more traditional 42 to 50-minute episodes? But they did officially announce 9-episode season. So that's intriguing.
Not in this particular setup. No, not on Signal anyway.
Maybe it was a one that released today or something, but something came out
unless it's in the trade. No, it's not in the description either. So, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Honestly, I don't care. Give it to me.
I'm stoked
watch
it.
And
I will say
there's speculations around the villain and how, like, the villain that she ends up dealing with is gonna like they're thinking that it might be Nightmare, which is a big Doctor Strange villain, which would explain the connection to her Elizabeth Olsen filming with Benedict Cumberbatch in Multiverse of Madness right now. So the next Doctor Strange, that one's a good appeal. Like, we already know that it's going to tie into it because Feige told us that.
He went out of his way to tell us that,
and it does seem to be a lot of
much to Phase 3,
and there does seem to be a lot of fucking dreaming going on. So,
but I am so intrigued by it because if not for COVID, this would have been the third property of Phase 3 that we would have gotten, because we were supposed to get Black Widow first, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then this. So because of COVID, they're switching things around and they're choosing to launch Phase 3 with this. And then on top of that, for Feige to come out and basically say that this has ripples throughout the entire Phase 3. Dude, I'm stoked. I'm so stoked. I was already stoked for this show, but he built this up to be like, this is what's gonna launch a phase that I think a lot of people were like, how are you going to, is this going to be your sophomore thing to Endgame? How are you going to come off Phase 1 and 2? A decade's worth of amazing MCU content, but it seems like they're starting strong with WandaVision. So I'm stoked, so stoked. But I'm more stoked for Dune because I'm a Dune fan. I love Dune so much. I grew up on Dune, the books. I'm not a big fan of the movie and the sci-fi series, and I was heartbroken when they pushed this. But I'm also just fine, because if I can't see this on IMAX or Dolby, I don't want to see it anywhere. It's a Denis Villeneuve film that I can't wait for.
I'm really excited to check this one out. It's not my most anticipated, but yeah, after watching the trailer and having you talk it up, Dune is one for me, and hopefully will be kind of a second win for Oscar Isaac, because I think Oscar Isaac is excellent.
He's in everything, man.
There's a lot of actors who I hope. There's a big cast for this one.
Huge cast.
Some heavy hitters in this one.
Yeah. Oh, and I was at Target yesterday buying some birthday gifts for a friend, and they had those really expensive figures, like movie figures for this. And I was like, oh yeah, this was supposed to come out in Christmas. And I'm sure at that point, Target and stores already had their orders, their merch orders in. Sure. So they were like Baron Harkonnen. There's this giant figure of him. He's one of the villains in Dune, and some other figures. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm sure they couldn't just cancel their orders. So I saw all these really nice, high dollar figures for, nerds like me that would buy that kind of shit. And I was again heartbroken that Dune wasn't out right now. But you were talking about HBO Max and Warner Brothers and Hot Water. Denis Villeneuve did not mix words. He was fucking pissed. He released a statement. called Warner Brothers out on their ass for this shit. And he basically said, you just fucked the Dune franchise. Because they were talking about this is technically part one of a two-parter. They were talking about HBO Max spin-off series. They were going to build their new Game of Thrones around this shit. And he said, you just burned all of that with this. He called him out. And since that, there has been rumors that they are walking that back and it will not be day and date release, that it will be a fourth quarter exclusive, basically where it was going to be, but in 2021, after the vaccines had half a year to kick in, they're talking about walking that back. And I would not be surprised if they did, because of all the movies, fuck Space Jam, the sequel. This one was supposed to go. This one was supposed to go in theaters, and I think of all of the ones that they choose to walk back, it's going to be this one.
I mean, especially if they're going to be building a big part of their future off of it as original content.
Yeah, like, that would be a big thing. That would shoot themselves not in the foot, in the fucking face if they did that.
I mean, speaking of Game of Thrones level content, you guys really want to fuck that shit up again? like, as bad as you guys dropped the ball with Game of Thrones, you really want to fucking do that with another property? It's like
dropping it so hard that who out here is talking about those prequel shows that are supposedly still coming? Nobody. And I am even a defender of the final season of Game of Thrones, and even I know that they dropped the ball. And nobody's talking about those spinoffs, those 5 or 6 spinoffs that they announced. Nobody gives a fuck about that anymore. They dropped the ball hard on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, that's it. We got through our list.
I don't want to go through another Game of Thrones tirade. But if I was a creator and I had put my heart and soul into getting a piece of content finished up, and then I had every plan on how I wanted people to see it, and then some big company came around and they were like, hey, fuck you. We're gonna put it out this way. We're not gonna tell you about it until it gets announced. And then we'll deal with the repercussions later. We're bigger than you, fuck off. I'd be insanely pissed off. So I was 100% on his side in that.
Yeah. And then to see the Disney investor conference the next week, and it sinks in. It sinks in that this was not some elaborate strategy by HBO Max. This was, oh my God, we just heard what they're going to do next week. We need to do something now. Throw a couple PowerPoints, throw some logos up there, and we're going to put it all on HBO Max, guys. Get it out to the presses right now. It was clearly like a we got to do something before this investor conference, and it just burned up in their face.
Somebody got a tip, ran it up the ladder, and then a panic move ensued. And,
for sure.
And it bit him in the ass super hard, which is not great because HBO Max was not doing hot as it was. I'm saying that having just recently signed up for HBO Max.
I'm
so
still stoked.
Check out some of that content. There's still some stuff on there that I'd really like to see. The Snyder Cut was kind of close to being one of my most anticipated. If Marvel hadn't had such a huge roster set for 2021, the Snyder Cut would have been right up in there. Because I'm
They've
excited.
Got some other. I think The Little Things is a Denzel Washington movie that's supposed to come out this month on HBO Max. I saw a trailer for that the other day. Looks really good. They've got some good stuff coming out on HBO Max that I'm excited for, but I don't envy their legal department right now.
The great thing is that no matter what happens, we all win because an amazing amount of content is about to release for 2021 that we should have gotten for 2020, but there's a huge amount of stuff that we're going to see in 2021.
We win to a degree. If there's repercussions from these decisions and we don't get a sequel to Dune and we don't get these other things that were planned, then we lose and we just don't know it yet.
Well,
but
I'm not talking about
I'm
just
going to be the
HBO.
optimistic. I'm going to be the optimistic person and say that we got more good things than bad things coming in 2021.
It's like we've got a huge amount of Marvel and Star Wars content that we're going to get to see in 2021. Maybe not a huge amount, but more than what we more than what
Huge
we were
amount of
getting
Marvel.
before all this stuff started picking up. Huge amount of Marvel, yes.
If they get all the stuff that they promised in 2021, I'll be surprised. But if they even get like 75% of it, that's still a lot. That's so much.
Either way, I'm ready. But the big question that we got left off here is Nerf herders. What were your most anticipated? What was your top list for 2020? What got you? What are you looking forward to the most in 2021? Like, what was on our list that you agreed with? What did you not agree with? Like, whatever it was, join in the conversation. Hit us up in those comments below. Check us out on social media. You can find us at Nerf Herders Assemble. You can also find us on Twitter at Nerf Herders Crew. And just be a part of the conversation. We want to talk to you. We want to know what you think. We want to know what your I want to know how your day was. You know? We just want to have a conversation. Maybe go outside and play catch. I don't know.
It's cold out
Hit the
there.
like. Yeah, it is cold out there. Fuck that. We ain't going and playing catch. You can fucking wait. Hit the like button if you liked this video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest. We can take it. And until next time, have a good one.
See ya. I don't have the end screen up, so we're